What if the client wants to talk about their emotions when they first come into the session? So this really requires you to think through the trauma process differently. So how do you prepare them to know how you work before they ever walk in the door? So one of the things that I'm going to suggest to you, and I'm not sure exactly how you deal with these things, but I'm assuming that either you've talked to the person when they made the appointment, or you're following up to something that was done online before they come in and having a conversation with them. So how you do this is you tell them right up front in the conversation where you make the appointment. A lot of people come into therapy and they believe that they're supposed to talk about all of the ugly, nasty things that happen to them. And there's kind of a belief system out there. If they can come and do that, they'll feel better. How often that doesn't prove to be the case. Often when they come in and talk about it, they get overwhelmed, they get frustrated by the process, and they don't want to come back. So what I'm going to suggest to you is we do this. I am not going to delve into the real nitty-gritty, ugly details until I know you're strong enough to manage them. We'll start our visits together through kind of orienting you on how the whole process works, how we work with trauma, how we move people through the process. We'll do some educational pieces so you know, have some way of understanding some of the things that I'm going to talk about and make it easier for you to be successful in therapy before we ever get into the real details of the event. Now, the natural tendency is you're going to want to come in and talk about those things, but I'll remind you when you first come in that we're not. But and I may have to remind you a few times because of habits that we have in that venue, but we will talk about those things as I am certain you have the strength to talk about them without becoming overwhelmed. And then you have to have a good boundary with your client. When they come in and they're full of energy and they want to just spill out all this information, you have to put the brakes on. You're not being uncaring. You're not being emotion avoidant. You are not failing to be interested. What you are is being professional and knowing that people doing that isn't good for them. And it isn't helpful in the long run in most cases of therapy. So again, you have to set the boundary and you have to hold to it. And you're going to have a lot of your peers that don't do that say, well, you're not meeting them where they're at. You're not caring for them the way that they want to be cared for. You're over controlling the session. That is not true. What you're doing is using your understanding of trauma, the physiology of the body, to help this client be successful. And if you are doing that, you're doing all anybody can ask from you. This idea that we have to respond to emotions is a fallacy left over by the psychodynamic era of psychology. And the neuroscience has not supported that for at least 30 years. So please, if you are giving yourself kind of negative messages because it goes against your belief system, then that's a different issue altogether that you need to kind of look at. You probably need to read the neuroscience a lot more thoroughly and gain a better understanding.